Duncan says, if you want to know about business, health, and places to go, welcome to the show. Yeah, welcome to the show. If you know that you want to grow your business, your practice, and portfolio, welcome to the show. Yeah, welcome to the show.
Hello, and welcome to I'm Simply Sane, the healthcast where the spine meets strategy, alternative healthcare takes center stage, and we discuss how to build thriving medical clinics. I'm your host, Dr. Mary Frances Duncan, founder and CEO of Simply Southern Chiropractic Center in South Carolina. I'm a chiropractor by trade in an entrepreneur's body. I'm excited to guide you through this journey at the crossroads of chiropractic care, integrative medicine, and the art of successful clinic management. Lastly, if you take anything away from this episode today, please leave this podcast a 5-star review. Reviews allow us to hear from our listeners and what interests you. So, without further ado, let's get into the backbone of it all. Welcome to I'm Simply Sane.
Hello and welcome to I'm Simply Sane. This is our first podcast and we are so excited to be here. My name is Kelsey and I am co-hosting with Dr. Mary Frances Duncan.
Hey.
Well, my name is Kelsey, like I just said, and I am Dr. Duncan's executive assistant. I work alongside her every single day to make sure that this practice runs smoothly. And Dr. Duncan, I'd love for you to do a little introduction on yourself, even though today is about you.
Yes, so I am Dr. Mary Frances Duncan. I'm a chiropractor by trade in an entrepreneur's body, and I run 2 chiropractic clinics. And I just absolutely passionate about chiropractic care, and I love running these offices, and I love running our staff, being a team leader. And so we're starting this podcast. We have a lot to say, and I feel like I can help other chiropractors. And then we will go over some clinical information that our patients may enjoy. And then also on this podcast, we are planning on having some guest speakers. So we have a lot to that's coming, and we are very excited.
Yes, absolutely. So let's hop right on into it.
Sounds
Okay, so let's just start where it all began. Where did you grow up?
So I'm from Greer, South Carolina. Born and raised here, and that's where one of our practices is. And so I grew up here in Greer. I went to Furman University in Greenville, South Carolina for undergrad, where I received my bachelor's degree. And then I went to Palmer College of Chiropractic in Florida for chiropractic school.
Amazing. So with that, what drew you to being a chiropractor from the beginning? Were you drawn at a young age, or when did that kind of happen for you?
Well, I've always gone to a chiropractor as long as I can remember. My mother always went to the chiropractor, and I would go with her for her appointments. She started, this is in the 90s, years ago. She had really bad sinus problems, especially just sinus pressure and congestion in her face. And she had sinus surgery, and it helped a little bit, but it didn't fix the problem. And so someone mentioned trying chiropractic care, and she did. And it didn't take away all the sinusitis, but it definitely made her problems a whole lot better. She told me that first sinus scraping surgery was so painful that she just couldn't go through that again.
Right.
And so I started going with my mom as a child, and as I, kept going with my mom to her appointments, my chiropractor, she kept, mentioning to my mom, you should get your daughter under chiropractic care. And so, I was elementary school when I started. And I started going regularly. So
Wow.
that was how I got started there.
I love that. I didn't know that whole long story with your mom. I knew she's talked about having those sinus issues, but I didn't know that she even went to surgery for it. So she vouches to this day that chiropractic care has changed her life because of just her sinus infections alone. So, wow, I didn't realize it turned into a surgery. So were you drawn to being a chiropractor when you started going to the chiropractor?
No, I didn't really give it much thought. I really thought I wanted to go to law school and be a judge. That was my end game. I wanted to be a Supreme Court judge. And so I went to Furman. I was a political science major, and then I got into a constitutional law class, and I realized very quickly that this was not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Also, I realized, if I wanted to be a Supreme Court judge, that I would need to have some sort of connections or know someone.
Some networking.
And I definitely did not. So I took I had a change. I did a 180 and decided that the medical field was for me. And at the time, so when I was in high school and in college, I've always worked as long as I could have a job. I've had a job. But one of my jobs, I've had so many little jobs, but I was a pharmacy technician at a local independent pharmacy, and I love that job. And when I was in high school, I stocked shelves with prescription medication. And then in college, this independent pharmacy had a location near Furman in Travelers Rest. And so I worked at that pharmacy, and then I thought, okay, well, I want to go to pharmacy school.
Right.
So that's sort of how my introduction to healthcare began. So I have taken all the classes I just needed to get a degree. So I made sure that I finished the courses to get my political science degree. And then my junior and senior year, I had some time to take some more classes. So I started taking classes, prereqs for either medical school or pharmacy school. They're all about the same. I did summer school those 2 years of my junior year and senior year of college, and I got those prereqs. And so I thought I was going to go to pharmacy school. I applied. I was going to go to a school in Alabama, and nothing worked out the way that it should. So I applied, I got into the school, but then I didn't fill out my FAFSA correctly. So I couldn't get funding. I couldn't find a roommate. I mean, it was just, all the doors were shutting. I could not get anything to work out. And so I remember it was like maybe late fall, around Christmas time, the year after I graduated undergrad. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and I went to my chiropractor just for like a regular routine maintenance appointment.
Sure. And
I remember sitting up, and she had known me for a very long time. So she looked at me and she was like, "What's wrong?" She's like, "I know something's wrong. You seem upset. What's going on?" And so I remember just crying, like bawling my eyes out on the chiropractic table. And I told her, I said, I don't know what I want to do with my life. I don't know, all my friends are already in grad school. Like they're already, I knew I wanted to keep going to school, and my friends had already gotten into school. And so she looked at me and she said, "Well, I've always thought that you would be a great chiropractor, and I would, think it'd be a good idea if you looked into that and applied to school." And so like a light bulb went off in my head, and I thought to myself, why did I never think of this? I love the chiropractor. I've gone my whole life. Every time I leave the chiropractor's office, I feel so much better.
Right.
And so I went home and I started that application process immediately. And it was just meant to be. So I applied, and I applied to only one school. I applied to Palmer College of Chiropractic, because D.D. Palmer, he was the creator of chiropractic in the late 1890s. And I figured that if he made chiropractic, that I wanted to go to his school.
You should probably go to his school.
Yes. And also my chiropractor, she had gone to Palmer. So I applied to the Florida campus. And so I got in, and I was not supposed to start for it was 6 months or a year or something, which was fine because I was still working at the pharmacy at that time. And so things worked out. I was able to find housing in Port Orange, like Daytona Beach area. I filled out my FAFSA correctly. I was getting federal student loans, and then everything was working out. And then I got a call 2 weeks after my application, was approved and I got into school, and someone from the registrar's office at Palmer, she called me and she said, someone has dropped out of this next class that's starting in March. Wow. And she said, and this was February. So she said, do you want the spot? And I said, yes, I do. And so I packed up. I moved from South Carolina to Florida within 2 weeks, and I started school, and the rest is history. And everything started to work out. And so I knew the doors are opening. This is where I'm supposed to be. And I just absolutely loved it from day one. So that's my story there.
I love that. I didn't realize it was so later on. You seem like the type who was like, yeah, I knew I wanted to be a chiropractor from the ripe age of 2. But with that being said, you decided you wanted to be a chiropractor, but when did you decide you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
I didn't decide that. I knew that from the day I was born.
There it is.
I knew I wanted to run a business. I love managing people. I love being a chiropractor, and I'm passionate about this field, but I love being an entrepreneur even more. When I was young, my mom told me that she would walk in my bedroom and I would have all my stuffed animals and baby dolls lined up against the baseboard of my bedroom. And I would just be looking at them, pointing at them, just giving them directions. And so I've always known I wanted to own a business. When one of my jobs that I worked when I was in chiropractic school, I waited tables and bartended at an outdoor seafood restaurant, that was by far my favorite part of chiropractic school. I love that job. I love the service industry. And so I got a taste of management there, and working with a lot of people. And you have to have some leadership. You have to have team players. It's almost like playing a sport. Everyone has to play in unison and in sync. And when we all work together in an office, it is a beautiful thing. So I knew that's what I wanted to do just before I could remembering.
Yeah, I love that. So with that being said, tell us your entrepreneurial journey when it came to starting Simply Southern Chiropractic Center.
So when I was finishing up, the whole time I was in chiropractic school, I knew I wanted to open up my own office. And so I knew I needed some sort of money and capital. I had to get a business loan, but I knew I've got to have something to live off of, because I don't know when I'm going to make any money to pay myself or survive. And so when I was waiting tables, some of our tips were cash, and I saved those cash tips. And I came home from Florida when I moved back to South Carolina with a shoebox of $50,000 cash. And that's what I lived off of the first year or two when I started the office. And so looking back, I cannot believe I drove from Florida to South Carolina by myself, stopped at a gas station and, rest stop, which I shouldn't have been doing anyways by myself, but stopped and had that money in the car. So
my goodness,
I'm glad I had it, because it sure did help me. And I needed that because, when you're the business owner, everybody else gets paid before you do. So I have to pay my staff, but if we don't have a good month or whatever, especially in the beginning, I'm the one that doesn't get paid. And so that was good. That helped keep me afloat the first couple of years that I started.
Right. So what were the things you didn't expect about owning a business? I know you wanted to do this for such a long time at an early age, but when you actually got into the nitty-gritty of owning a business, being an entrepreneur, what did you learn that was like, oh man, I didn't even think about this and the intensity that this could be?
Well, you don't know what you don't know. Everyone says it's hard, and owning a business is the hardest thing I've ever done. I love it. It's the most fun thing I've done. I wouldn't want to do anything else. I'm not employable at this point to work for somebody else, but definitely you have to want to be an entrepreneur. Just because you're a chiropractor does not mean that you're set out to run a business. And I have told people before, in my opinion, I think that you have to be absolutely obsessed with something for it to be successful and to be the best that it can be.
Right.
And you're a slave to your practice. I was a slave day and, from the moment I woke up in the morning till the moment I went to sleep, I was a slave and still am a little bit to this practice for my whole life. My life is a whole lot better now. I'm almost 10 years into it. But those first, it was 80, 90-hour weeks for 5, 6, 7 years. And so you just have to put in the work. It is not easy. And then it does get better. And someone told me this was, several years ago, so well past when I started. But someone said that when you start your business, people think that you will have more time to do the things that you want. You don't have a boss. And so that is totally not true. And the reality is you go from working a 9-to-5 job when you work for somebody else to working 95 hours a week when you work for yourself. So that's totally true. I knew that though, and I love it. I don't really have that many hobbies. I should, but I love running businesses. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've got other ventures that I do. I absolutely love it. But back to your question, one of the things I didn't expect, this is service industry. I'm only as good as the staff that work with me.
Okay.
Because when a patient comes in the office, they may only see the doctor for, 5-10 minutes, but they might be with a chiropractic assistant for 20 or 30 minutes of that appointment. And so staff management is the absolute hardest part of this job. And learning people and learning who to hire and learning when it's time, when it's time to fire and let go. A lesson I've learned is when I get a thought that someone is not going to work out in this office, they probably needed to be let go a month prior. Mm-hmm. And so just listening and picking up on cues and, you hire slow and you fire fast. That is so true. So staff management definitely is the most surprising thing I've found in practice and the hardest thing in practice that there is. It's not getting new patients and it's not getting people better, which I thought that would be the case, and that's not.
Wow. I wouldn't even thought of that when it comes to owning a business. There's so many so many topics that it entails, but that's something that you kind of just assume is I'll just hire people I like. And there's so much that kind of goes into that, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a future podcast. So moving forward, this is just a great little question I like to add in. What would you tell your younger self about the endeavor she was about to take on? Right before you started the business, what would you tell her 10 years later? Here you are, she's looking at you. What would you say?
I'd say keep doing what you're doing. I feel like I've done the best that I could do along this journey. And it's hard, but I knew that. And so just like a horse's race, put your blinders on and go. Don't look at your competition. Don't look beside you. Just go. Just go forward and do work hard and just keep pushing and be consistent. Show up. That's a big part of it. And when I started, I do remember this, when I started, you just got to get in this mindset. I am not going to failure is not an option. It's off the table. It's not going to, that cannot happen. Absolutely not. You don't even give that thought at all. And if you think, oh, I'm not going to make it or I'm not going to do well at this, then you shouldn't be owning a business.
Right.
You are green flag racing the whole time. Let's go.
Sure. I love that. I think that's the best advice you could give her. So, you opened Practice One and that went well and you had some things you didn't expect, but there was definitely a successful business in your hands. Tell us about that journey with Practice One in Greenville, your Greenville location. Tell us how that was for you.
Yeah, so I graduated chiropractic school in June, and in November of that year, I opened my first office in downtown Greenville. And that was almost 10 years ago. And so we gutted the building. We did a total remodel. I thought at the time I had taken out a business loan. I think all total it was $300,000. And I thought that was a lot of money, which it is. But at the time, I didn't realize, that I got off pretty good with that. And so, but we remodeled, we got, at the time, some used equipment, and we got started, and we did okay. We did pretty well. And then I remember this like winter time in the spring of the next year. So I started in November of 2015, and this was like February or maybe March of 2016. I remember, so by the way, when I started, I did not have a website for almost 6 months. And looking back, you couldn't have a business in 2024 without a website.
No.
And so I don't know how I got patients. I guess I'm from the area. People, heard about me. And so online wasn't a thing. But I remember I thought, I've got to get this phone has got to ring. And I remember going in the bathroom in the doctor's office. There's a little bathroom. And I only had one employee at the time. And I think she was at lunch. And I got on my hands and knees in the bathroom, and I prayed to God that the phone would ring with a new patient phone call. And so, as time went on, just like I said, show up, be consistent, show up, be consistent, and patients started to call in. And then once you get some patients and you do a great job, they get better, and then your referrals start. And so one person can turn into 2 people with a referral, 2 people turn into 4, 4 turn into 8, 8 turn into 16, and so on. And so that starts to snowball, and it takes time. And so nothing that is going to lead to anything comes easy, and you got to work at it. And this is the same situation. So.
Right. Well, that's really exciting. And we soon after opened Practice 2, which is really exciting because you move from owning one business to evolving into like this butterfly of another business. So when did you know with opening Practice 1, okay, it's opened, it's settled, it's time to open Practice 2. We have to.
So I opened Practice number 2. We actually opened 5 years later. That was in 2020 in our Greer location. But I got my first associate in 2018. So first doctor that started on with us. And then I think it was the end of 2018 when I realized we don't have enough space. And that was a big issue. So I knew I needed, another doctor in the practice. I was working at the time 5 or 6, maybe still 6 days. In the beginning, I worked 6 days a week. I treated 6 days a week. I think I dropped to 5, but 4 of those 5 days a week, I was seeing 70 to 90 patients. On Saturdays, I was seeing 30 or 40 patients. Like I physically couldn't do that. I mean, you're adjusting and almost manhandling, 90 adult bodies. Like that is very strenuous. And so I realized, and we had a wait list for new patients for like 4 to 6 weeks to get in. I couldn't get them in. You want to get chiropractic patients in pretty quickly because typically they're in pain. And so I realized we definitely need another doctor. And then once we got a second doctor, we were starting to run out of space in our first location. We didn't have parking spaces. I had to have my staff like park off site in a gym parking lot and walk up to the office. We had to I had to tier the schedule with the other doctor where they would treat at a different time than I was treating. And so I just realized like, this is not working. We have got to get some more space.
Right.
And so, I started that journey in 2019. We did another big remodel on the next, property, and it's a beautiful clinic. And for this one, this was over $1 million of a remodel. And so I realized quickly at that time that my first loan to remodel the first office was not as big of a deal as I thought it was. So, and then we had the second office, and then that was scary. So, but I can't do anything halfway, go big or go home. Like we totally remodeled, and it looks fabulous. It's on brand with the office. And so, we've been in Greer since 2020. It's our 4th year in this clinic.
Yeah, that's amazing. So tell me a little bit about opening this clinic. I know that this was peak COVID. So give us a rundown on what that looked like, because I'm sure that was terrifying.
So we opened this clinic on March 19th, 2020. And so that was the week, at least here in South Carolina, that the world shut down. And we were ready, we were prepared. I had moved a lot of our patients from our Greenville office to this clinic because this was closer to where they lived. And, I think the first week I had like 60 or 70 patients on the schedule in the brand new office every day. And COVID hit, and, we had like 10 or 15, maybe 20 patients on the schedule that still were going to come in. And I just saw my life flash before my eyes. I mean, I had this, almost or right at $1 million in loans. We just had new equipment delivered the week before, chiropractic tables, x-ray machine, you name it, cold laser, all that stuff had been delivered. And I remember, I think it was our second day, all my staff had left, and we have a really long hallway in our Greer office. And I dropped to my knees, and that was the second time where I just cried out to God. I was like, please, I pray that this works out. Please let us stay open. I hope we can stay open. And we did. And I'm very, very thankful. And so we were able to stay open as chiropractors in our state when other people, dentists, massage therapists, they were not able to stay open. And so I just want to, I want to give a round of applause to, at the time, it was our South Carolina's Chiropractic Association. Our president, she went to our governor, Henry McMaster, and begged him to let us stay open. And he did. And I got the chance to actually speak with the governor this past fall.
Cool.
He made October Chiropractic Month in South Carolina. And when I got my chance to talk to him, that was the first thing I said was, thank you so much for keeping us open during COVID. You don't know what that means to me and to our profession. And I am just eternally grateful for that. So that was a rocky experience. And but once March turned into April turned into May, we started rocking and rolling again, and patients started coming in. And we had actually some growth in 2020, which I was not expecting, which was good.
Yeah, that's amazing. So with that being said, and learning something new and having a new experience you definitely didn't have with the first practice and opening the first practice, did you learn anything new with opening practice number 2 in Greer?
We just did everything bigger. This building is 3 times the size.
Yes,
we have 3 times more equipment. We have 3 times more staff. And so, if you've got to build out a practice where people can come in and they can fit. And the way I like to do it is I like to build what we want to happen and want to come and staff up. And then, after that, you really bump up your marketing and all to try to fill the space and those treatment times.
Amazing. So. I love that. So now here we are. We are almost 10 years in location number 1 and almost 5 years in location number 2. And the biggest question I feel like a lot of people have when it comes to almost 15 years of successful, I guess 10 and 5, but when you accumulate it all, of 2 successful practices, what does that look like? And how do you stay passionate? How do you stay driven to do what you do every day?
Well, I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur and a business owner, but I knew that I wanted to pick a field that helped serve others and change people's lives. Mm-hmm. I am so passionate about chiropractic care. So we can help so many people get out of pain with conservative treatment without unnecessary surgeries and taking unnecessary pain medication. And I'm not saying that there's not a time and a place for back surgery and for medication use, but we are an option for conservative treatment before those things sometimes have to be used. I mean, chiropractic care will change the quality of someone's life. It takes, usually 2 to 4 months for a patient to initially get better, but we'll have patients come in the door that have an antalgic lean, they're bent over, they can't stand up straight. Whoa. And then 3 months later, they are walking and then, ready to get back into an exercise routine. We see this time and time again. Females, especially females over 40 that suffer from migraines, they're terrible and they have to leave work for these migraines. Those go away. Those get better. babies with ear infections, that gets better, and constipation, that gets better with children. I could go on and on. We work on plantar fasciitis, prevent surgeries in the plantar fascia. I mean, I could go on and on. And I'm so passionate about chiropractic care. I need it for myself. I get treated regularly. When you adjust the spine, it takes pressure off the nerve and it allows the immune system to work better. And it, treats the nervous system. And so we need more chiropractic care. I'd love everyone to be under maintenance chiropractic care. I mean, it will totally change people's lives.
It does. As an advocate, when I started my job here, I started chiropractic care, and I had chronic migraines from the ripe age of 5th grade, and I started getting adjusted, and I haven't had a migraine since. So I'm a huge advocate myself, and even just showing up to work, I'm just as passionate about the work that we do because of the fact that I know what we're doing it for and the better cause for the community. So I really love that. And yeah, it's an easy way to stay passionate and driven when people around you are getting better and you can see a patient come in not feeling well and just barely walking out the hallway, walking out the door with their head on their shoulders, and they're happy and ready to move on with their day. So I can totally see that.
Well, I even said this to our clinic director today. I asked him, he was adjusting me, and I said, what would you do if you didn't get adjusted? Like, do you ever think about that? Like,
right.
If I get a headache, I get adjusted and I don't have to take anything. Or if thank goodness I don't suffer from like low back pain, but if something feels off, I get adjusted and I move on with my day and it's fixed. And like, I guess I would just be on taking, medication all the time. And again, there's a time and a place for that.
Sure.
But, if we take, Tylenol or Advil all the time, it's going to wreck our kidneys as we get older, and it's going to cause problems. And I'm not saying that those over-the-counter things aren't necessary at times, but I think that's what I would take all the time. I don't know life without chiropractic care, and I just know I don't hurt. Like, it's not normal to hurt in your 30s. That's not normal. You shouldn't have back pain. And so, or chronic headaches and all. So I just want people to know that there is a better way of life. So.
Absolutely. I love that. So moving on, how many, this is just a fun little question I like to plug in. How many hours do you typically work, Dr. Duncan?
Per day or per week?
Let's do a per day.
I get up at 5. Depending on the day, if I'm treating, I'm in the office by 6:30. I like to look over my records and notes. I just want to do a really good job and prepare. And we're open late. I mean, I used to leave the office around 8:30 or 9 p.m.
That's about right.
Then I go home, and my husband, he's wonderful. He does cook for us, so we'll eat together. And I know eating that late is not the best.
We pick our battles.
But then I usually get on my computer and then do the administrative side of this job. So, and that's a day that I'm treating. And I love this. I don't have hobby. This is my hobby. I absolutely love running this practice. I love coming to work. I love our staff. We have a fabulous team. I just love being here. And I knew I was going to be here all the time. I love interior design, so I made sure that we decorated the space. I love the way it looks. And so I just genuinely enjoy being at work and doing this job and treating patients and running this business. And, people talk about, work-life balance and all, but work is a part of life. And I genuinely enjoy what I'm doing. I absolutely love it. So I know that this was my God-given purpose, to be a chiropractor and to help patients and use chiropractic as a vehicle, for entrepreneurship. So I know that is my purpose.
Right. I love that. And I can vouch for her staff saying that we love Dr. Duncan because Dr. Duncan loves to run a business and take really, really good care of us. So we are always, like she said, our staff environment and culture, we are always cutting up. We are always having a good time. But at the same time, we are all working really hard toward the same goal. And that is something that you really have to have a strong leader leading the way for you to do that every day, and for her to be here from 6:30 to 8:30 almost every single day, and she is, trust me. It is really powerful to see someone who you just trust to know that they are going to make sure that you are always going in the right direction. So yes, she does work that many hours. I can say 100% she does. So with that being said, like you said, a typical work day with treating is looking over your notes, treating patients all day, and then going and doing admin over in the evening. What does, say, a day that you're not treating look like for you instead? Maybe like Thursday, because I know her schedule very well.
So I do try to, while I do not love it, I do try to work out, or I've got to get some exercise. I try to lift weights. And so I'll try to do that in the morning. If I don't do it in the morning, it's not going to happen. So I get up and do that. We go to we have a marketing agency. We meet with them every Thursday for 2 hours. Kelsey and I do. And then we head to the office, and Kelsey has things on my calendar, which is great. That helps keep me on track and moving where we're supposed to move. Zoom calls with, I do coaching myself, and so I have coaching calls. I do so much training with my team and my staff. Mm-hmm. And so sitting with the chiropractors in the office, we go over patients' x-rays. We go over what's going on. We go over treatment. That's a big thing. And then training, some of our front desk staff. I'm answering their questions still, which I am slowly getting away from that. But that's sort of a typical day. I mean, what else would you say that we do? So I just don't even.
Yeah, no, I think that's a lot of it. I mean, she's a pinball machine and I'm a pinball machine. We just kind of are like hopping back and forth, and then we meet up and we're like, hey, this is what's going on. And she tells me what's going on. And then we go and do other things, and then we meet back together. So yeah, I mean, it really is just taking care of those fires that we need to burn. We need to burn out really quickly, and then hopping back in and being like, okay, what can we do to be productive and move the business forward? And so it is a lot of meetings, a lot of emails, a lot of
the emails.
Oh, the emails. We could talk about emails for a whole podcast. So yes, that is kind of what a day looks like, especially when Dr. Duncan's not treating. And I love those days because I don't have to see all, it feels like I get to see her all day. So it makes me feel like, we're getting some more things done and feel a little bit more productive. So that's really great. And that's kind of what a typical day looks like. So moving forward, that's what our little lives look like right now, and how Dr. Duncan does everything every day. So here we are, with these locations open and now two thriving practices. So what would be your biggest advice that you would give to another entrepreneur?
Well, this may be an unpopular opinion, but I think that a lot of people that start businesses have absolutely no business opening a business.
Why do you say that?
You have to, like I said, you are a slave to your business, especially in those early years until you get it going and it gets off the ground. And so it's not an overnight success. I'm almost 10 years into this, and I'm still working very hard. Now, slowly in the last several years, I've been able to back away from actually being in treatment. But you have to love, just because you're good at what you do, like you're a professional and you're very good at your trade, does not mean that you are built to be an entrepreneur. You have to roll with the punches, and at the end of the day, it's lonely at the top. Your staff are not, you think they may care, but they don't. They don't think about you, which is fine. This is part of it. So they're not going to realize that, my staff have no idea what time I get here in the mornings. They do see me leave late at night, but they have no idea. They don't realize that I came in on the weekends for years. I have some staff now, we have a larger team, but I had a staff member, she was shocked that it was just me in the very beginning. When I first started, it was me, and I had a part-time front desk person. I was doing, the therapy, the putting the patient on, wherever they needed to go, adjusting them,
right,
doing the front desk, all that. And so, you just gotta want it, and, just know that you're not going to be appreciated sometimes. People's favorite subject is themselves, and that's including your employees as well. And so, we learn a lot as an entrepreneur and as a business owner about how you want to really care for your staff and do a lot for them. And sometimes, I mean, it's human nature to think, okay, well, if I treat my staff well, you know, they're going to appreciate me the same way, and they're not, and they're never going to, and that's fine. That's part of why you're an entrepreneur and a business owner, and they are not. And so that's a big lesson. And so I try not to complain or get frustrated, because we all do. And I just tell myself, you know, I signed up for this. I wanted to do this. And so I cannot complain. Like, let's just figure out a solution and how to make this better. And you can't let things bother you. And you just got to keep moving on, knowing that you're helping people in your community, and for the staff that you do have in your clinic, that you are a stable, reliable income source for themselves and their families. And you have to remember that in the times that you don't feel appreciated and it's not so fun.
Right. I can listen to that and take that in. Moving forward, my last question is, what's the next step for Simply Southern Chiropractic Center? Or you can answer maybe saying, what's the next step for you in your personal entrepreneurship journey?
Well, this is a big thing we're doing, is our podcast.
Yes.
And, you know, I feel like I have a lot of experience under my belt. You know, I'm still learning. I'm still in the treatment room. I'm still in the trenches too. So I'm learning every day, but I feel like I've got a lot of things I can help other chiropractors with, and just entrepreneurs in general. And so I love this, and I just want to share that information. And I want people to learn from me, from my mistakes, because I've made mistakes and I've learned from them. And so coaching is one of the things that I'm starting, and then this podcast as well. And I've had a great time with it so far.
Yeah. So thank you so much for giving us a watch today and listening in on our podcast. This is our first episode, and we're really, really excited to be starting this.
Yes. Thank you so much for listening. And we hope that you join us for our future episodes.
Yes. Bye.